Two men, two vital deliveries, two extremely dangerous missions.
You're going out to war every day. You know, you're making a delivery of cash, and people like cash.
A Stryker platform is the Cadillac of the battlefield.
The Alpine Ford F-550 armored truck and the U.S. Army's heavily armored Stryker troop transporter. Two heavy-duty machines made to secure precious payloads and protect lives.
The Stryker really is the best tool in Iraq.
On this episode, two unique machines deliver different cargo with surprising similarity. For each team, secure and safe delivery depends upon mobility, battle-tested armor, and unique defensive capabilities. Vehicles built to protect and serve. Cross at intersections. Bill Bailey and Major Lane Marshall, two men who place themselves in harm's way, risking everything to deliver millions to banks and troops to the battlefield.
I've actually conducted 2 tours of duty in Iraq. And make no doubt about it, when it does get there, it will use every system at its fingertips to bring hurt on the enemy.
I've been in the security industry 30-odd years. Understanding, knowing the possibilities and training of what can happen out there when you're in an armored vehicle. I have carried a lot of cash in my time. I'm well protected. I have bullet-resistant glass, which will withstand high-velocity rifle. My underneath is protected. I'm covered all over.
The Alpine armored truck is one of the most secured armored vehicles on the planet. Its 6.8-liter V10 engine delivers 362 horses and needs all the power it can get to handle the weight of almost 8 tons. Its entire body is heavily armored with bulletproof glass and ballistic-resistant plating. Its mission is cash in transit, or CIT, and both the truck and its driver were designed and trained specifically for this task.
Once I decided to leave the British Army, then I pursued a career in the commercial security industry.
Facing danger head-on is something that runs in Bill's blood. His father and grandfather were both military veterans.
My father was served in World War II. My grandfather was killed in the First World War. So yeah, basically, I do come from a military background.
Bill's military experience as an airborne trooper taught him all he needed to know about making deliveries under fire.
The parachute regiment jumps out of aeroplanes, and it's a method of delivery to the battlefield.
Bailey knows that getting behind the wheel makes him a moving target.
You're going out to war every day. You're making a delivery of cash, and people like cash. Attacking an armored vehicle could be easy money. And the crew of that armored vehicle obviously realize that there's people out there who would like that money. It's a high risk. It's very easy to become very complacent, thinking that you're in an armored vehicle and nothing can stop an armored vehicle. Well, we all know that armored vehicles can be stopped.
Assisted by his guard, Bill will deliver several $1 million across town amid rush hour traffic, watching for the many dangers that could strike such a high-value target. Major Lane Marshall is the commander of the 2nd Squadron 104th United States Cavalry and part of the 56th Stryker Brigade.
Well, a very well-trained Stryker crew can have guys in and off of there in seconds. We're not talking minutes, we're talking seconds.
Weighing in at around 41,000 pounds when fully loaded, this 8-wheeled bulldog is armed to the teeth. The Stryker has MK-19 40mm grenade launchers, a .50 caliber M2 machine gun, and M6 smoke grenade launchers. And when this beast needs to step into gear and get out of trouble, it uses its 350 horsepower turbo diesel engine.
These vehicles are designed to deliver United States cavalry troopers to the battlefield, dismount them, have them go do their business, all right, and mount them back up and move off the battlefield quickly.
Major Marshall has been a highly decorated member of the U.S. Cavalry for over a decade. Being in the Army runs in his blood.
Yes, I am from a military family. Many members of my family have served. My father, God rest his soul, was a World War II vet.
In 2009, Major Marshall earned the prestigious Gold Combat Spurs. The Order of the Spur is an award that recognizes the completion of the Spur Ride, a grueling series of mental and physical tests of a soldier's leadership and tactical proficiency.
I always knew it was something I wanted to do. Got over 20 years in service now. I was the commander of the best cavalry squadron in the entire United States Army.
Today, the Stryker Brigade is rolling into a mock Iraqi village at Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, to simulate a search and seizure mission inside the close quarters of an urban landscape. As the cavalry troops load into the Stryker, millions of dollars are being transferred into the back of the Alpine armored truck. Both vehicles are now moving targets. To successfully deliver their valuable payloads, they must stay mobile at all times. A vehicle the size of the Alpine armored truck sticks out in traffic like a sore thumb, making it an easy target to track. If thieves can slow the truck down or stop it, Bill could lose the client's money, or worse. To stay mobile, he must avoid choke points along his route.
I think most people enjoy money and what it can bring you. And what's easier than hitting a truck? Because you're going to have the money in one place at one time. If you were to rob a bank, you know, a bank is static, it's generally well protected, it has closed circuit television. Banks don't move, trucks do. It's just easier to hit a truck. And you can choose your point where you'd like to hit that truck.
A stopped armored truck is a vulnerable armored truck. When criminals target a vehicle like Bill's, they set up what's known as the X point, a place of their choosing to render the truck immobile.
The X is where an ambush would be planned. The place where you want to stop that vehicle, whether it be a person or a moving vehicle, is the X. And with a truck of this weight, then you have a good chance, if you can keep the vehicle moving, of surviving that X.
Criminals could confront Bill's truck at the X point by disabling it at what may look like its weakest spot, the tires. To successfully combat these threats, the armored truck uses a secret weapon, specially designed run-flat wheels. The run-flat wheel system is made of state-of-the-art composite materials which fit between rim and rubber and keep the truck rolling in case the tire is flattened or destroyed.
If the tires of the vehicle should be destroyed, then the vehicle can still continue 30 to 40 miles at its speeds in excess of 50 miles an hour.
The 56th Stryker Brigade is on the move through a mock Iraqi village on its way to deliver a 6-man team to the fight. Like the armored truck, the need to keep moving keeps them on the lookout for choke points inside the city limits.
You always want to try to stay away from choke points, but when you get into the urban areas, you really have no choice. You have to travel.
Well, as a driver, you're always looking for escape routes. You're always running through the what-if scenarios that are going along, that are in your environment. So if you're seeing a choke point, what are we going to do?
And just as the armored truck relies on run flats, the Stryker vehicle depends on them too, but only as a last resort. Its ability to stay on the move at all times comes from what the cavalry calls the CTIS system.
The very unique thing about it is we have the ability to inflate and or deflate the tires based on the terrain.
The CTIS is our central tire inflation system. This is pneumatic lines that go into the tire, and whether we receive shrapnel, a bullet hole, any sort of debris that we run over that punctures the tire, the CTIS will actually pump air into it to try to keep it as inflated as possible.
Coming up, each vehicle has state-of-the-art protection against ballistic and explosive threats.
The only way to test these windshields is to shoot real bullets at it.
If the vehicle does get hit with an IED, they can pop the panel and put a new panel of armor on.
And each has weapon systems that can repel the enemy. When Intersections continues. Armored vehicle driver Bill Bailey and Major Lane Marshall of the United States Cavalry are in charge of transporting precious cargo. Both vehicles have gotten underway on run-flat wheel technologies that will allow them to continue moving through dangerous threats of an ambush situation. With danger lurking around every corner, each crew is protected by their vehicle's heavy-duty armor.
The biggest threat that we had in Iraq this past combat tour was the RKG-3. It's a Russian-made, sort of like EFP, explosive form penetrator. It's hand-thrown.
If the Stryker should come under assault by RKG or an IED booby trap, the protection of the vehicle must withstand the attack, or lives and the battle may be lost.
It's a very survivable, very well-protected vehicle and does a very good job of taking care of United States Army cavalry troopers.
Thick, high-hardness steel offers the vehicle basic protection against many armor-piercing machine gun rounds. Further protection against projectiles is provided by a covering of armored aluminum slats or panels.
The Kevlar aluminum on the outside is in shapes. If you saw, there's panels all over the vehicle. That way, if the vehicle does get hit with an IED or a projectile that damages that block of armor, we're not out of the fight that long. We can go into our combat repair team, they can pop the panel and put a new panel of armor on.
And depending on the situation, the Stryker is equipped with the ability to armor up to defend against specific threats in their theater of operations.
There are some additional protection that we apply to these based on the threat in whichever theater we're going to.
One piece of additional armor is referred to as the bird cage, which consists of a metal guardrail surrounding the vehicle's perimeter. By utilizing the bird cage, the Striker forces any projectile to detonate outside the vehicle's exterior, lessening the direct blast against its armor's plating. Improvements like this are a welcome addition to the Striker's battlefield platform.
My first tour in Iraq was from 2004 till almost the end of 2005. And though we had all the tools the Army had to provide to us, some of these other systems weren't online yet. And I can tell you that it was a marked difference on the ground this last tour.
Just like the Striker, the armored cash-in-transit truck could be vulnerable to a bomb planted on the roadside or the undercarriage of the truck itself. But reinforcements to the entire body, including the chassis, mean this truck is nearly unstoppable.
It's not only the sides or the front or the top of the roof, it's the underneath as well. So if the vehicle were to go over an IED of some sort, there would be some protection there.
When a bullet is fired at the truck's armored exterior, the strength of the hardened steel is such that the metal absorbs the force of the velocity of the bullet. With the velocity absorbed, the reinforced steel causes the bullet to break up on impact. Creating hardened steel is a three-step process. First, the sheet is heated and then rapidly cooled, resulting in a hard but brittle material. The steel is then heated a second time in a process known as tempering, increasing its strength. If the threat from weapons fire is aimed directly at the driver, he has 40mm thick ballistic glass between him and the attacker.
The only way to test these windshields is to shoot real bullets at it.
And the reinforced glass is tested with live firing using standard rounds that are widely available and commonly used by criminals.
It's a 168 grain bowtail hollow point round. It's traveling approximately 2,600 to 2,850 feet per second, and it's delivering 2,650 foot-pounds of pressure.
The armored truck is reinforced with 40mm ballistic glass and polycarbonate. This means that windshield and doors are able to protect the occupants against the most common weapons used by criminals, such as high-powered handguns or assault rifles. When the bullet impacts the glass, the shock wave is absorbed, and each layer of the reinforced glass slows down the bullet.
If I was operating in his truck, I would feel very safe. I know for a fact that if anybody comes up with a handgun, they can shoot at me all day long. I don't have anything to fear, really.
Coming up, thieves will stop at nothing to get their hands on the cash.
Gun ports allow the crew inside to go on the offensive and return fire.
And the Striker Brigade is armed with a variety of weapons to repel an enemy attack.
Every single individual has a weapon system, whether it's the 50 caliber machine gun or the M4 individual weapon. With
payloads to protect and lives in the balance, these men must use everything at their disposal to defend themselves. When Intersections continues. Bill Bailey and Major Lane Marshall are in the midst of two dangerous missions: the delivery of millions in cash and troops on the ground. Both have used high-tech mobility systems to stay on the move and have been protected along the way by superior armoring technology. Now past the point of no return, all eyes must be on the lookout. Entering hostile territory, a 360-degree view of the ground is critical at all times.
Whenever we go through very built-up areas, everyone's up and everyone's scanning a particular sector from anywhere from 12 to 3 to 6, all the way 360 degrees. Everyone has an assigned sector that they're responsible for.
The eyes and ears are a valuable asset, but under fire, the crew must continue to monitor the situation from inside. To do this, the Striker provides viewing periscopes at both the driver and gunner's positions. But modern warfare has dictated that a more advanced view of the battlefield be used. The Striker employs a high-tech imaging system known as the driver's visual enhancement that will allow him to see all around the vehicle as well as inside cars, buildings, and even under people's clothing using a thermal imaging system.
The way the thermal camera works, it picks up heat signatures. So if you're walking around in Iraq and you've got a suicide vest on and that thing's heating up underneath your man dress, I'll be able to pick it up on my thermal sights. You can turn it from white hot to black hot, and there's also a rear camera so that when we're backing up the vehicle, we can see what's behind us.
Just like the Striker, Bill's Alpine armored truck faces very real threats and uses its own camera system to ensure perimeter security at all times.
You have crew members looking forward. With this particular vehicle, you have a camera which is looking rearwards. So the crew can see actually 360 degrees with this camera system.
But for each crew, even an advanced warning cannot stop an attack. For this reason, both vehicles are equipped to return fire.
There's incidents where cash and transit vehicles have been stopped, and that's when it all happens. Whether they take you out by shooting you or whatever, this is the easiest way for them. So yeah, there's high risks.
Even in the unlikely event that the truck is stopped along its route, Bill and his crew can return fire through gun ports and repel an attack. The vehicle is equipped with 5 gun ports, the first located above the cab. Along the driver's side, 2 ports allow firing access to the driver and the guard in the rear. The same layout is mirrored on the passenger side, allowing the vehicle a 180-degree safety shield.
Gun ports allow the crew inside to go on the offensive and return fire.
For Major Lane Marshall of the Stryker Armored Brigade, the thick hull of his machine is not always enough. In the worst-case scenario, he must go on the offensive to keep his cargo safe.
The Stryker platform brings to bear every single one of the Army's current ABCS systems, or Army Battle Command systems. If the Army currently has it, it's on that platform somewhere.
The Stryker has an array of weapons on board that will help the brigade repel virtually any type of threat.
The current weapon of choice for the actual weapon system, or the main gun system on the Stryker, is the 50 caliber machine gun. The remainder of the individuals in the Air Guard vehicle commander can have anything from an M4 to a shotgun to an M14 to an M203 grenade launcher. Pretty much the sky's the limit.
If we have a target, say that building, the laser rangefinder, you'd hit this red button. You'd get this up here on the screen. It'll give you the distance and automatically program the weapon system to the elevation that it needs to be to get those rounds on. If I see a threat, I can hit the stabilization, which means that my weapon platform will stabilize. Even though the Stryker can be going up and down, my aim point is stabilized, and I can engage the target without rounds bouncing all over the place.
The Stryker platform can bring more than enough to bear to get bad guys off of us quickly and get to a place of positional advantage where we can bring our weapon systems to bear against whatever threat that's in front of us and eliminate it.
Coming up, the armored truck and Stryker are in position and ready to make their deliveries of cash and troops.
These vehicles are designed to deliver United States cavalry troopers to the battlefield.
And leaving the safety of the truck makes the guard a marked man.
You can lose money and hopefully get it back. If you lose a life, you don't get it back.
When Intersections continues. Armored truck driver Bill Bailey and Stryker Brigade Commander Major Lane Marshall have successfully navigated their cargoes into position for delivery. They've gotten there using a combination of high-tech mobility systems, rock-solid armoring, 360-degree surveillance, and lethal firepower. Now, it's time to deliver the goods. The crew of the 56th Stryker Brigade has a high-stakes training mission to accomplish. They're deep in the heart of a mock Iraqi town and must safely deploy and search buildings for possible insurgents. Getting off the vehicle is the riskiest part of the mission for the cavalry.
Whenever the ramp drops and we have to dismount, obviously that's our most vulnerable time because we're not behind the protection that the vehicle provides. Especially in an urban type environment, if we were doing a quick or exfiltration, we wanted to get out of Dodge quickly, we may actually use the smoke canisters on there to put a smoke screen in front of us, especially if we were taking fire from like a building or a rooftop.
To maintain maximum protection, the Strykers roll into town in a convoy with all eyes alert for dangers.
We will have good protection around. Usually we're going to travel in 4 Strykers. As I refer to it, our Stryker can look like a porcupine. We have each individual Stryker has its own 360 degrees of coverage. That means there's 4 heavy barrel machine guns, 4 air guards, and 4 drivers that are going to be on constant surveillance for any threat.
We know everybody who's in there, everybody's blood type, everybody's weapon serial number, where everybody's going to physically be inside the truck. So if anything does negative happen, we know exactly what it is that we need to do.
Once the cavalry arrives at the center of an isolated town, they know they're exposed, and that means vulnerable to an enemy ambush. The Stryker is specially designed with a rear hatch and an unloading ramp that can drop and deploy troops fast. An urban environment gives armed insurgents plenty of places to hide, so the squadron follows strict protocols for the delivery of troops. If anything goes wrong during a drop-off of the men, the results could be deadly.
Once you drop the ramp down, you've exposed yourself, a very big exposure. So you need to do it in a hurry.
Before the enemy knows it, the Stryker Brigade quickly deploys and executes their mission, earning them a special nickname on the battlefield.
Actually, a lot of insurgents refer to the Stryker platform and the soldiers that are on them as ghost soldiers because they were snuck up on and had no idea that anyone was there. Next thing you know, you're surrounded by 30 or 40 United States cavalry troopers, which I can assure you is a very lethal thing on the battlefield.
Similar to the Stryker crew, Bill Bailey's mission is to safely drive up to the bank and allow the guard to enter with full bags of cash to deliver. This is a well-planned procedure, but one in which everything could go wrong.
The most dangerous part of cash in transit is when a delivery is being made, because then the vehicle becomes very vulnerable. It's stationary, the crew member is outside of that secure box and carrying the valuables.
One of Bill's delivery tricks is to reverse in diagonally, taking 2 parking spots so he can't easily be boxed in. He also remains eagle-eyed for all possible threats.
The crew member will then get out.
As the guard exits the truck with the money, Bill closely monitors for suspicious persons or vehicles that seem out of place.
The driver would always remain in a driving position in the cab.
This surveillance footage shows the real danger an armored truck crew faces every day when leaving the safety of the vehicle.
You can lose money and hopefully get it back, or it's insured. If you lose a life, you don't get it back.
As the guard safely re-enters the truck, Bill knows that it's his high-level training and instinct that makes all the difference.
It's all back to preparation. It's about training, knowing what to expect, and knowing how to deal with those problems.
Having secured the building, the cavalry troopers successfully exit the area and return to the safety of the Stryker. While the intensive training of Major Marshall and his troops is critical to their success, it's the U.S. Army Stryker that makes it all possible.
This lovely piece of Army technology sitting behind me makes my job that much easier.
These 2 very different but highly secure delivery vehicles and their crews have been put to the test. Their missions and machines have intersected in several key areas. Specialized procedures prepare the crew